Welcome to our aquatic biology lecture. Today, we are diving into a crucial topic, aquatic conservation legislations. While biology teaches us how aquatic ecosystems function, it is the law that actually protects them. We will explore how scientists and lawmakers work together to shield our fragile water bodies from human exploitation and pollution. Let us get started on this exciting journey. To understand why these laws exist, let us imagine a familiar scenario. Imagine you are driving on a busy highway with absolutely no traffic lights, no speed limits, and no police officers. It would be complete chaos, leading to inevitable accidents. Our oceans, rivers, and lakes are very much like that busy highway. Human activities, such as industrial manufacturing, commercial fishing, and urban development, act as the vehicles. Without strict rules, people would take too many fish, dump toxic chemicals, and destroy delicate habitats without a second thought. Aquatic conservation legislations act as the essential traffic laws for our water bodies, ensuring that everyone shares the resource responsibly. Now that we see the need for rules, let us define what these laws actually are. In formal scientific and legal terms, aquatic conservation legislations are legally binding statutes, regulations, and international agreements. They are specifically designed to protect marine and freshwater ecosystems. These laws are enacted by local, national, or international governing bodies to carefully manage human interactions with aquatic environments. They establish strict limits on how much pollution can be discharged into water, dictate fishing quotas to prevent population collapse, and designate specific areas as protected marine reserves. By translating ecological necessities into legal frameworks, these legislations provide a mechanism to penalize violators and fund restoration projects. These definitions might sound abstract, but their real-world impact is monumental. The importance of these legislations cannot be overstated. They are our primary defense against the irreversible degradation of our planet's water resources. In the real world, laws like the Clean Water Act in the United States or the Water Framework Directive in Europe have successfully transformed heavily polluted, dead rivers back into thriving ecosystems. Without these legal frameworks, factories would naturally default to the cheapest waste disposal methods, dumping untreated toxic sludge directly into nearby rivers. Overfishing would rapidly deplete keystone species, causing entire aquatic food webs to collapse. By enforcing these laws, we maintain biodiversity and secure safe drinking water. Understanding the legal side is just the beginning. We must also see how this translates into scientific action. You might wonder how a written law actually translates into measurable scientific action in a lake or river. Legislators and environmental scientists use specific mathematical models to set legal limits on pollution, ensuring that water bodies remain healthy. One of the most critical legal metrics used in aquatic conservation is the total maximum daily load, commonly known as TMDL. The TMDL represents the absolute maximum amount of a specific pollutant that a water body can receive in a single day, while still meeting legally mandated water quality standards. This metric bridges the gap between biology and policy. Let us look at the mathematical equation that defines this critical metric. This formula calculates the total maximum daily load. Conceptually, it balances all sources of pollution against the maximum allowable limit for a water body. TMDL stands for the total maximum daily load, usually measured in kilograms per day. WLA represents the waste load allocation, which is the legally permitted pollution from point sources, like factory pipes. LA stands for the load allocation, representing pollution from non-point sources, like agricultural runoff. Finally, MOS is the margin of safety, a buffer added for scientific uncertainty. If the WLA or LA increases too much, the total pollution exceeds the safe limit, forcing the government to intervene. Before we calculate anything, let us look closer at the three components making up this limit. The TMDL equation is built on three distinct pillars. First is the waste load allocation. This covers point sources, which are easily traceable polluters, like factory discharge pipes or sewage treatment plants. Second is the load allocation. This covers non-point sources, which are much harder to track, such as agricultural runoff or city street drainage washing into a lake. Finally, we have the margin of safety. Nature is unpredictable, so this buffer value is added to account for scientific uncertainty and seasonal changes in the water body. Together, these three components ensure the ecosystem is never overwhelmed. Now that we have our formula, let us apply it to a real-world scenario. Suppose a freshwater lake has a total maximum daily load of 500 kilograms per day for phosphorus. We are given that agricultural runoff, a non-point source, contributes 200 kilograms per day. The law also requires a margin of safety of 50 kilograms per day. We need to find the maximum waste load allocation for a new fertilizer factory. We start by substituting our known values into the equation. We add the agricultural runoff and the margin of safety to get 250 kilograms. Subtracting this from the total limit of 500 gives us our answer. The factory is legally allowed to discharge a maximum of 250 kilograms of phosphorus daily. Exceeding this means breaking the law. To fully grasp how these allocations interact, let us look at a visual representation. Here, we see the TMDL legal framework depicted as a balance scale. At the very top, the overarching water quality standard is set by law. This standard dictates the balance we see below. On the left side, we have the inputs into our lake: the waste load allocation from point sources, like factories, the load allocation from non-point sources, like farms, and the protective margin of safety. All of these combined must perfectly balance against the maximum allowable pollution on the right side. If the left side becomes too heavy, the ecosystem collapses and the law has been violated. This diagram beautifully illustrates the delicate equilibrium aquatic legislations strive to maintain. Setting limits is important, but what happens when those limits are ignored? Aquatic conservation legislations are only effective if there are strict financial penalties for breaking them. Without consequences, companies might simply ignore the laws and destroy aquatic biomes to save money. Therefore, environmental laws include mathematical frameworks to calculate fines. These punishments must be objective, proportional to the environmental damage caused, and strictly aligned with conservation laws. Such steep financial penalties serve as a powerful deterrent. They force industries to invest in better waste treatment technologies, rather than illegally polluting our vital water resources. The math ensures that the punishment perfectly fits the crime. Let us examine the exact formula used by inspectors to calculate these fines. This equation determines the financial consequence of a pollution violation. F represents the total fine in dollars that the violator must pay. R is the penalty rate, which is a set dollar amount for every single kilogram of excess pollution. E stands for the actual emitted pollution, measured by an inspector. And L is the legal limit granted to the factory. By subtracting L from E, we isolate the exact amount of illegal excess pollution. If a factory increases its emissions E beyond the limit L, the difference grows. And when multiplied by the rate R, the total fine F increases proportionally. This guarantees fairness and strict accountability. Let us put this penalty formula into practice with a specific violation. Imagine a chemical plant violates its legal permit. The penalty rate is set at $5,000 per excess kilogram. The factory's legal limit is 100 kilograms per day, but an inspector measures an actual emission of 140 kilograms. We need to calculate the total fine. First, we substitute our known values into the penalty formula. We subtract the legal limit of 100 from the actual emission of 140, finding that the factory discharged 40 kilograms of illegal excess pollution. We then multiply this 40 kilograms by the penalty rate of $5,000. The final answer is $200,000. This massive financial penalty ensures the factory pays dearly for damaging the aquatic ecosystem. As we wrap up our lecture, let us review the most critical points we have covered. First, aquatic conservation legislations are vital frameworks that protect our fragile water ecosystems from human exploitation and pollution. Second, we learned that these laws rely on scientific metrics, like the total maximum daily load, to set strict, mathematically sound limits on environmental impact. Third, we saw how calculated financial penalties enforce these limits, ensuring that industries share water resources responsibly. Ultimately, understanding these legislations is just as important as understanding the biology of the fish themselves, because without the law to protect them, the biology simply cannot survive. Great job today. You now understand the crucial intersection of aquatic biology and environmental law.